Before we dive into this episode, I want you to take a second and think about all of the NFL players who played at BYU. All of the players that maybe we've talked about on this podcast already. We've talked about some amazing ones, some of the players that we haven't talked about yet because we're going to get to them. I think the common denominator in everyone's mind, no matter who you root for, no matter if you're a BYU fan or not, one guy comes to mind. The common denominator in all of this. And you guys know I try and be objective on this show. I try and present facts. I try and present statistics. I want you guys to have an accurate representation of these players, what their value is in the league, what their value is on the team. I'm being for real when I say this player is different. This is a different player. You know who I'm talking about. You saw the title of this episode. We're talking about Puka Nacua, the man, the myth, and currently the legend. Not in the future, right now. This dude is legendary. He holds records, he's broken records. This guy is built different. We're going to talk a little bit about Puka Nacua. We're going to break him down statistically. We're going to compare him with some other players, but to get this out of the way, this dude is a baller, and I will not hear any other arguments on it. You tell me who you'd rather have than Puka Nacua, because this guy is the real deal. And us as BYU fans, I think, are pretty excited that he came out of BYU. Now, Puka Nacua, he actually didn't start at BYU. He started at the University of Washington. He was a Husky. In 2019, his freshman season, he started his first 8 games. He had 7 receptions, 168 yards, 2 touchdowns. He broke his foot, which was unfortunate for him because in 2020, the Pac-12 had a significantly shortened season. BYU actually was unique in 2020 because they played a somewhat regular season, but that was just because they were independent and would essentially play anybody. The conference teams didn't always have that same opportunity, and Washington got hit really hard. They only played 4 games that year in 2020. Puka played 3 out of 4 in those games, 9 receptions, 151 yards, 1 touchdown. That's crazy stats right there for anybody wondering, for a player who played 3 games out of 4. And actually, they won all 3 of those games. They only lost 1 game that season, and it was the game Puka didn't even play. So I guarantee you that had something to do with it. And after the 2020 season, he enters the transfer portal. He signs with BYU prior to the 2021 season. This is when we start to take note of him as BYU fans. This is when the nation kind of starts to take a look at him because and his statistics are pretty consistent throughout college, but BYU, he did different things at BYU, and he had a bit more of a leadership opportunity at BYU as well. In 2021, he had 12 games, 43 receptions in those games, 805 yards on the season, and 6 touchdowns. BYU also got him involved in their run game, which Washington didn't do. So on the ground, he had 14 attempts, 148 yards, and no touchdowns. He had 4 games in 2021 where he had over 100 receiving yards. That's pretty dang amazing. To have 1 game over 100 receiving yards is pretty amazing, but to have 4, that's fantastic. In 2022, he played in 9 games. He had 48 receptions, 625 yards, and 5 touchdowns. On the ground, he had 25 rush attempts, 209 yards, and 5 touchdowns on the ground. So he had the same amount of touchdowns on the ground as he did receiving in 2022. So at this point, what we know about Puka is he's played in very few games compared to other guys who go out and play every single game, every single year there in college. He's played in relatively few games due to an injury, due to COVID. And his draft stock in that regard is lower, but this is why the draft is completely bogus, as some of my friends would like to say, because if you look at those statistics, very consistent across the board. And it shows that he is efficient in every game that he plays. This is an impact player. And us now, here in 2026, looking in hindsight, we see that even in the NFL for Puka. This dude gets on the field, he makes plays, he's an impact player. And from the moment he stepped into the NFL, he has been that. And my point here is from the moment he stepped onto the football field in college, he's been that way. So his draft stock is down because he played in less games. He had some things he needed to overcome, as all players do developmentally, but honestly, I think he's taking care of a lot of those things. And over the course of the next few seasons, we're going to see him take care of even more of those things because obviously nobody's a perfect player. In 2023, he was drafted in the 5th round with the 177th pick to the Los Angeles Rams. This has got to be one of the best late round draft steals in the history of the NFL draft. I mean, this is amazing. You got Puka Nacua in the 5th round with the 177th pick. We're going to talk about this later. He had 19 receivers, just wide receivers alone, picked before him. And we've got some big names on that list, but I think Puka competes with every single one of those guys. In 2023, he started in all 17 games. He had 105 receptions, 1,486 yards, and 6 touchdowns as a rookie. They used him on the ground as well with 12 rushing attempts for 89 yards, no touchdowns his rookie season. He finished second in Offensive Rookie of the Year voting. Obviously, the voting is a little bit skewed towards quarterbacks. I'll admit that. CJ Stroud for the Texans won that. CJ Stroud is Ohio State, a former Ohio State guy, so it's fun to see him there. In 2024, Puka has a little bit of a knee injury coming into the season. He leaves in the second quarter in their season opener against, I believe it was the Lions. He misses the next 5 games, and then in 11 games for the rest of the season, because he misses the season finale as well, the regular season finale game, excuse me. In 11 games, he has 79 receptions, 990 yards, so 10 yards short of 1,000, and 3 touchdowns. On the ground, 11 rushing attempts, 46 yards, 1 touchdown. So all of that in 11 games. He had an almost 1,000-yard season in 11 games. He was 10 yards short in 11 games. That's crazy. I mean, he didn't play in 6 games and did better than receivers who played in all 17. I mean, that is a fantastic season. And people are going to look at that 2024 season as not being Puka's best season. That's totally fair because I agree it wasn't. He dealt with injuries and he had dealt with injuries in college. I mean, that's not new, even though I think he handles it well. But to our point that we're making already, this is an impact player. I'm going to say it once. I'm going to say it again. Every time he steps on the field, he's going to do something special. And that's a pretty dang good stat line for only having played 11 games in 2024. In 2025, he missed 1 game due to an ankle sprain, but the other 16 games he was in, he put up 129 receptions for 1,715 yards, 10 touchdowns, 10 rushing attempts, 105 yards on the ground, and 1 rushing touchdown. That was this last season. He led the league in receptions at 129, first downs in 80, and yards per game at 107.2. So led the league in 3 categories in regards to receiving. That's crazy. To this day, Puka Nacua holds the record for most receiving yards in a single game by a rookie at 1,486, most receptions in a game by a rookie at 15, most receptions in his first 40 regular season games at 277. He's tied at the fastest to 4,000 receiving yards at 42 games. He's tied with Lance Allworth, Justin Jefferson, and Odell Beckham Jr. So some big names on that list. Fastest to 300 receptions at 43 games. This dude is unbelievable. I mean, coming out of the gate swinging, out of college, out of BYU. He wasn't at the Big 12 when he was at BYU. This is a guy who's really special. He's a diamond in the rough, to say the least. And I think we all look back on the 2023 NFL draft and say that a lot of teams missed out on him. To say nothing of the fact that he was the 177th pick, there were 19 other receivers picked before him. And I want to break down, I guess I'm just going to read a list of those guys who were drafted ahead of Puka Nacua. And you tell me if you think that Puka is better than them or if you'd rather have this guy. And honestly, tell me this. Okay, number 1, Seattle drafts Jackson Smith-Njigba out of Ohio State. Number 2, Quentin Johnson out of TCU by the Chargers. Number 3, Baltimore takes Zay Flowers out of Boston College. Those were all the round 1 picks. Oh, excuse me. Jordan Addison was taken out of USC by Minnesota as well. So kind of a wide receiver heavy first round there. Those were all the first round picks. Going into round 2, you had Jonathan Mingo by the Panthers. Jaden Reed by the Packers. Rashee Rice by the Chiefs. We all know him. That's kind of a bigger name. Marvin Mims by the Broncos. Those are all the round 2 picks. In round 3, you had Tank Dell, whose first name is actually Nathaniel, by the way. I did not know that until I prepared for this podcast. The Texans took him in round 3. Jalen Hyatt, taken by the Giants in round 3. Cedric Tillman, taken by the Browns in round 3. Josh Downs, taken by the Colts. Michael Wilson, taken by the Cardinals. Trey Tucker, taken by the Raiders. So that's round 3. Round 4, the Chargers with another home run. Darius Davis. Charlie Jones, taken by the Bengals. Tyler Scott, taken by the Bears. So that's round 4. And then in round 5, you had 2 other wide receivers picked ahead of Puka Nacua, who was actually the last pick in the 5th round. You had Justin Shorter, picked by the Bills, and then Dontavian Wicks, picked by the Packers. So even throughout those 19 names, we've got some pretty good players in there. However, I would be hard-pressed to find a guy, just speaking gut feeling with my heart, just initial look, first look at this. I wouldn't take any of those guys over Puka Nacua. Now, Jackson Smith-Njigba is probably the closest guy. And statistically, we're going to see that as well, because we're actually going to break down the statistics here too. But honest to goodness, it's not close with those other guys. It's not close at all. I mean, Quentin Johnson was the second guy. There's no way I'm taking Quentin Johnson over Puka Nacua at all. No matter who I am, no matter which franchise I'm with, no matter which quarterback I am, I'm taking Puka Nacua over Quentin Johnson every time. And that's not to say that Quentin Johnson is bad. That's just to say that Puka Nacua is better. That he slid to the 20th wide receiver picked in that draft, and that was a big mistake by every single one of these teams. So I had to go and look at the statistics on this, and this is a lot of statistics to look at because all of these guys have been in the league the same amount of time. They've had the same amount of opportunities. They've all had different team situations, of course. But Puka Nacua didn't exactly go into an easy team situation, especially being a late 5th round draft pick. I mean, there's just no excuse for anybody here. So, looking at the statistics here, I'm not going to break down every single player for all of these just to give you an idea of who statistically wins. I'm just going to give you the categories in which these people beat Puka Nacua. Because if I don't mention it, it means Puka Nacua's stats are better. So, here we go. Jordan Addison has more yards per reception at 13.7. Puka Nacua has 13.4. Jordan Addison and Jackson Smith-Njigba both have more receiving touchdowns. Jordan Addison has 22. Jackson Smith-Njigba has 20. Puka Nacua has 19. As far as receiving yards, that's it for that category. Moving on, because I had to kind of compare these guys in different categories here. Tank Dell has more receiving yards per reception at 14. Puka obviously has 13.4. That's it for those guys. Next, this is all between Darius Davis, Cedric Tillman, Trey Tucker, Josh Downs, Michael Wilson. None of those guys beat Puka Nacua at all in the receptions category. Next, Charlie Jones did Dontavian Wicks, Tyler Scott, Justin Shorter, Puka Nacua wins in all of those. And I left out rushing because some of these guys actually have better rushing statistics than Puka's rushing statistics. But at the end of the day, as far as a receiver goes, Puka Nacua has better receiving stats than all of those guys. Now, okay, Jackson Smith-Njigba, Jordan Addison, and Tank Dell were the guys that we took there. So Tank Dell, more receiving yards per reception, whatever. Same with Jordan Addison. Jackson Smith-Njigba doesn't come close to him in there. And then the only way that Jackson Smith-Njigba leads Puka Nacua is in receiving touchdowns. And judging by the title of this episode, I'm sure you all can tell where this is going as far as where I'm going with this. Jackson Smith-Njigba on March 20th signed a contract with the Seattle Seahawks, a 4-year, $168.6 million, averaging $42.15 million a year. This makes him the highest paid wide receiver in the league. Now, these two guys came out at the same time in the NFL draft. Obviously, Puka being a later round draft pick. Only the first round guys get 5th-year options. Seattle actually did something kind of interesting here where they told Jackson Smith-Njigba they were going to pick up his 5th-year option, and then they signed him to this huge contract. So that's unusual, obviously, laying your cards out like that. Puka Nacua won't be granted the same luxury, just knowing exactly where his future stands after this next season. But I can tell you this much. Jackson Smith-Njigba's contract is going to impact Puka's big time. And Puka, admittedly, the week that this podcast is coming out, it's coincidental, I swear. But he has some off-the-field stuff that he needs to get taken care of to be a real just to sell himself really, really well to the Rams, saying, look, I'm not only your guy, I'm the guy that you want to invest in for the next several years, but I'm the guy that you want to spend a lot of your cap space on, a lot of your salary space on, because that's not a small number. And to make him the highest paid wide receiver in the league is a big deal. And as I've established already, Puka Nacua is better than all 19 of those guys taken ahead of him, Jackson Smith-Njigba included. Now, people are going to say, look, Jackson Smith-Njigba has the Super Bowl win last season. He has the Offensive Player of the Year selection. Okay, absolutely. Now, listen to me very closely. Offensive Player of the Year. Fantastic. That's great. Jackson Smith-Njigba winning that. I'm not trying to take anything away from that. But looking at the 2025 stats, Puka had a better season. He just had a better season. 1,000% he did. There's no world in which Puka Nacua wins the Super Bowl last season and doesn't win Offensive Player of the Year over Jackson Smith-Njigba. He had a great season. I'm not trying to say that he didn't. He's an Ohio State guy. I think that's fantastic. But Puka is the better receiver. The Rams have had less success over the past 3 seasons than the Seahawks had, obviously, because the Super Bowl is the big one. But Puka Nacua, had the Rams won the Super Bowl last season, would be sitting here with that same title that Jackson Smith-Njigba has as well. So is Puka worth that $42+ million a year, probably closer to 45? Absolutely. This guy is a diamond in the rough. He's a once in a lifetime talent. We're watching history being made every single time he goes out there. I mean, it's a big deal. He puts out a generational performance every single time he steps onto that field. There's potential for Hall of Fame statistics to be made every single time Puka steps out on that field. This is a big deal. So is Puka worth $45 million? Absolutely. Absolutely, I think he is. Now, if you still are doubting, because you may say, look, these other guys, most of them are nobody names. Some of them are a little bit better, right? I mean, Zay Flowers is a big name there. Jordan Addison kind of lives in Justin Jefferson's shadow. That's totally fair. Rashee Rice is pretty notable. But let's take a look at Puka. We're going to do another blind stats comparison here because the one that we did with Zach Wilson was pretty well received. We're going to do a blind stats comparison with Puka Nacua and some of these other wide receivers who weren't drafted alongside him in 2023. So I'm going to read out the statistics. You guys are going to tell me which one that you'd rather have. So these are all going to be through first 3 seasons because obviously these guys have either played less than 3 seasons, so they're going to have significantly less games. I actually think all of these guys have played more than 3 seasons. We're just looking at the first 3 seasons. And I want to give you an idea of where Puka is at compared to like some actually pretty big names here. So Okay, number one. This wide receiver has 47 games. Puka Nacua has 44. He has 324 receptions. Puka Nacua has 313. So they're right there with each other on this one. This person has 4,825 yards. Puka has 4,191. So quite a bit less for Puka there, but still over the 4,000 mark. 25 touchdowns, which is 6 more than Puka's 19. And then 102.7 yards per game to Puka's 95.3. And this is, again, over the first 3 seasons. Okay. That wide receiver over his first 3 seasons is Justin Jefferson. Now, take the league as a whole, which I think we've been doing so far anyways, but take the league as a whole. Who are your big names? Justin Jefferson is absolutely the top of that. Now, he's had some quarterback struggles, which Puka hasn't had because Matthew Stafford's very consistent overall. Over the course of his career, he's been very consistent. Justin Jefferson hasn't had that same luxury, so I totally get it. But those first 3 seasons, very comparable. And the Achilles heel there being really touchdowns is the big one. A few more yards. That's a big one. So, and again, don't forget Puka missed like a ton of games in 2024, 6 games alone for an injury and then sitting out the last game of the regular season. So, okay, comparison number 2. This guy has 43 games in his first 3 seasons to Puka's 44. He has 288 receptions to Puka's 313, so slightly less receptions. He has 4,122 to Puka's 4,191. So they're very evenly matched up here. Touchdowns, this guy has 35 over Puka Nacua's 19. So he gets in the end zone a little bit more in these first 3 seasons. Admittedly, more than a little bit. He gets into the end zone quite a bit more. What is that? 16 more times. I mean, that's significant. It's almost double, not quite there. So who is this guy? Who do you guess? This is Odell Beckham Jr. So we all know what kind of career Odell Beckham's had. Pretty amazing, star quality guy. Different playing style than Puka because he had quite a bit of speed, and Puka's fast, but he's not necessarily like blow your socks off fast or take the top off the defense fast, but absolutely very similar players in this regard, especially statistically. So take that for what it's worth. Okay, number 3. First 3 seasons, 48 games. Puka has 44. 269 receptions. Puka has 313, so slightly less receptions. 4,163 yards to Puka's 4,191. So just a smidge less receiving yards there. Same thing, 35 touchdowns. Same with Odell Beckham in the first 3 seasons. So just kind of blows us out of the water with touchdowns in those first 3 seasons. Puka Nacua had 19. This wide receiver is Randy Moss. And we all know how amazing that was. I think the kids today still say that they moss the defender when they pick that ball off out of the air. So Randy Moss, we know what kind of career he had. Puka Nacua, I would say, is very similar. Now, we need to get Puka Nacua in the end zone a little bit more to put him in the same category statistically as some of these other guys. I totally get it. Let's keep going. Okay, this guy in his first 3 seasons has 45 games. Puka has 44. He has 270 receptions. Puka has 313, so significantly less receptions. He has 4,019 receiving yards. Puka has 4,191, so quite a few less receiving yards there. This is 7 more touchdowns than Puka at 26. Puka had 19. This is a guy who's in the news right now quite a bit, A.J. Brown. He's in the news for the right reasons. I should clarify that. It's just kind of his situation with the Eagles is a little bit up in the air. I hope he ends up with the Patriots. That's best case scenario for him and for New England in my mind. But an amazing receiver. Big, physical, wide receiver. Puka Nacua doesn't avoid contact. Big, physical guy. Not necessarily the fastest guy. A.J. Brown is probably a little bit quicker than him, but I would actually say they're pretty comparable in that way. Very consistent. Both impact players. I would say these guys have very similar careers to this point. Puka is going to be on the right path in that regard. Okay, now we're going to get into some more interesting names here. So, next comparison. First 3 seasons, 44 games. He's tied with Puka Nacua. Both have 44. 215 receptions. Puka Nacua has 313. So 100 almost less receptions. 98 less receptions. 4,048 receiving yards to Puka's 4,191. Definitely more touchdowns at 9 more touchdowns. 28 to Puka's 19. This is an interesting comparison here. Both had Matt Stafford as quarterbacks. Calvin Johnson. Now, this was with Detroit. Detroit wasn't very good, but Matt Stafford knew how to get the ball to Calvin Johnson. I mean, this guy was called Megatron for a reason. He was scary. He would have guys triple team him and still score. So that's a big deal. He's definitely bigger than Puka Nacua is, but as far as the speed, as far as the ability to find space, get open, as far as the ability to understand the offense in a great scheme, these guys are similar in a lot of ways. Okay, next comparison. 48 games to Puka's 44. 270 receptions to Puka's 313, so quite a few less receptions. 4,039 yards to Puka's 4,191. 28 touchdowns to Puka's 19. This is a guy who we all think of when it comes to consistency. This is a guy who played for a long time in the NFL. This is a guy who is a Hall of Fame wide receiver, Larry Fitzgerald. And hey, if Puka Nacua and Larry Fitzgerald are on the same track there, that's pretty dang good. Next comparison. We've got 45 games to Puka's 44. 259 receptions to Puka's 313. 4,163 yards to Puka's 4,191. Significantly more touchdowns. This is the most touchdowns that we've seen so far. 38. So double Puka's touchdowns at 19. This guy is Terrell Owens. Now, he had a lot of off the field stuff to work on as well. And I don't know if the locker room guys liked him very much. And to my understanding, Puka's pretty liked in the locker room right now. I know there was kind of the whole live stream incident, but my understanding is that the Rams organization, including the players, generally likes Puka Nacua. And I think for the first 3 seasons, people liked Terrell Owens as well. But Terrell Owens went on and had a very legendary career for a long time. Puka Nacua, I think, if he can take care of his body, has the potential to have the longevity that a lot of these receivers have. Okay, next one. 48 games to Puka's 44. 257 receptions to Puka's 313. 3,995 receiving yards to Puka's 4,191. This is the lowest amount of receiving yards that we've seen so far. 31 touchdowns. That's pretty efficient on the ball as far as getting into the end zone. To Puka's 19. This is Julio Jones. This is a player that I think all of us have watched, all of us think about when it comes to amazing wide receivers. Julio Jones, he has the speed is the issue. Julio Jones was amazing. He's got the hands, he's got the speed. He'll take the top off the defense. Absolutely fantastic physical wide receiver. These two guys are similar in a lot of ways, but man, this guy has the leg up on Puka as far as speed goes. Julio is an absolute baller. Okay. For this last one, this is going to be an interesting one, but I want you to take this into consideration. 47 games in the first 3 seasons, 233 receptions. It's quite a few less than Puka at 313. 4,163 receiving yards to Puka's 4,191, so very similar. This guy has the most touchdowns of anybody we've talked about so far today. 43 touchdowns in his first 3 seasons. That's crazy. Puka had 19. I'm not saying these players are similar. I'm not comparing their playing style or even the era in which they played football, but I thought the stats were relevant here. This is Jerry Rice, a guy that I think a lot of people consider to be one of the greatest wide receivers to ever play the game. So I'm not saying Puka is that right now, for sure. But is there an argument to be made that he's elite? Absolutely. Is there an argument to be made that he's on the path to continued eliteness? Absolutely. I don't think in 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years, we're going to be talking about, oh, is Puka Nacua still elite? I think this guy is going to be around a long time. I think the Rams are going to want him around a long time. He's going to have his ups and downs as he already has in a microcosm of 3 seasons, but this guy is a baller. And to return to the topic of the episode, as far as is he worth $45 million a year? Absolutely. Pay him double, pay him triple. Just kidding. Don't actually do that. But pay him as much as he wants to stay on that team. Because if you can get Matt Stafford to stick around for 1 or 2 more seasons, if you can get Puka Nacua to have a healthy season in which he's consistent, in which he's at the facility, in which he's taking care of his life outside of football, I think you have an amazing Rams team. Combine that with a great defense, which obviously they've been doing. They picked up Trent McDuffie, who's a former Washington Husky, who I think was roommates with Puka when they were at Washington together, actually. But do what the Rams do as far as being a well-run organization, and they're going to get their Super Bowl win soon. Puka Nacua is going to get his Offensive Player of the Year soon. Maybe not MVP, but maybe. I'm not saying never. Not with Puka Nacua. This guy's generational. This guy's built different. And I'm really, really excited to see where he goes. So far, we have good luck on this show. So, Puka, we hope you get that extension, man. Take care of yourself. And thanks, everybody, for listening this week. Be sure to share this around if you liked the episode. And we'll see you guys all next week.